right? So I am bringing my knowledge of the defense to the offensive side of the ball. I know what messes with defenses' heads. I know that when I send three guys in motion, totally flip the field on them, it's going to make my defense be like, what's going on? Like, the issue is putting proper people in place. Now, I may not know everything about offense, but I know what messes with the defensive like heads. That's why I will have an offensive coordinator that puts in the scheme, that puts in the plays. But like I can say, hey, I want this, and this, and this because I know that this will mess up. It takes a special person to be a head coach. It takes a leader of men to be a head coach, and a person that can admit that they need help. Right now, that's just the way it is. So I don't think if it's a defensive coordinator or a linebackers coach or a special teams coach, I don't think it matters. It is just the respect of the individual there. So,
Buck, who has the greatest NFL dynasty?
The greatest NFL dynasty? Probably the 49ers, honestly.
All right.
Why?
Let's move on to the next team.
The next team?
If it's not the 49ers and it's not the Cowboys.
Are you saying the Steelers?
No. Well, sure. We could talk about the Steelers. They've had defensive-minded coaches, but I'm referring to, that team up in New England.
Oh, the Jets?
The Jets are not in New England. I'm referring to Bill Belichick, defensive-minded. Mike Tomlin, defensive-minded. I mean, DeMeco Ryans right now with the Texans, defensive-minded. So like you said, I think it's just a matter of knowing what their capabilities are and putting the right people in place to handle those things. So I do think that an offensive-minded has the leg up per se, but I think it really comes down to if you can hire Robert Saleh. I don't think he's a bad guy. I think that they need to kind of get that quarterback position solidified, and I don't think that's on him. But I think he's a pretty good coach too.
So let's talk about Robert Saleh. I think Robert Saleh was forced into his position this season. The owner forced Aaron Rodgers on him, and in that realm there, when you force Aaron Rodgers on you, you force Aaron Rodgers' wish list. Even though he didn't have a wish list, it was weird that Allen Lazard was signed. It was weird that Cook was signed. It was weird that some other Packers were like signed. Yeah, like it was just it seemed very, very weird. So I feel like Robert Saleh is kind of getting a pass this season and maybe next season because I don't know the owner's name, but I feel like he forced his hand on Robert Saleh, saying, "I want Aaron Rodgers, and you're going to deal with it one way or the other." So David says, "Facts. You can be a defensive head coach, just like you said, Buck. Just hire a good offensive coordinator." And then Junis thinks Fields to Washington. You don't love you any Sam Howell, Junis? I thought Sam Howell was going to be the future. Speaking of future, Hoffy, Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season as a head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. However, this season right now, they're sitting at 7-6, and they do play 4 games less this season versus the Colts, Bengals, Seahawks, and Ravens. Hoffy, is it an overreaction or underreaction that Mike Tomlin will have his first losing season as a Pittsburgh Steelers head coach?
I don't think it's an overreaction. I mean, they have the Colts, a bipolar team. We don't know if they're going to get the Colts that won, what was it, 10-6 versus the Patriots. If you're going to get a Colts team that can, Gardner Minshew is going to play out of his ass, and we'll see.
Right.
You have the Bengals. The Bengals are clicking right now with their backup quarterback. He's been playing pretty well. They go against the Seahawks, which will at that point probably still be, fighting for a wild card spot. And then you have the Ravens, provided that the Ravens might have something locked up there. They might, not start their starters. But they're one game above 500 right now. I could see them losing 3 of their next 4, especially not having You know, Mitch Trubisky we'll see. He played decent against the Patriots, but I would not be surprised, and I would not overreact to the fact that this probably will be a losing season for the Steelers. But if Mike Tomlin can once again get away with another winning season, I think this would probably be one of his most impressive seasons, because the last year was another one where they started off pretty bad and they kind of saved it, and they said, hey, look, that was one of his better seasons. This year, losing Kenny Pickett, their starter, and importing Mitch Trubisky, and still coming out with a winning season when they've had a pretty tough schedule. Just being in the AFC North, they've had to play teams like the Packers. They've played teams like the Jaguars. The Texans have been pretty good this year. So they've had a pretty tough schedule this year. So, but I do think that he will end up with his first losing season.
Yeah, so we kind of thought that last year, right? And then I think they went 8-1, right? Like somehow they pulled out a tie. They're like, oh, we didn't have a losing season, but we didn't have a winning season ever. And I was just looking at their schedule, right? They've had a lot of home games so far this season. They do play the last 3 of the last 4 on the road, at Indianapolis, at Seattle, at Baltimore. So far this season on the road, the Steelers are a 500 team. So if they continue that trend and they are a 500 team on the road, that will probably give them 9 wins this season. If they split the last 2 of the 4, that gives them 9 wins on the season. They can beat the Colts. They can beat the Seahawks. Hell, they can even beat the Ravens.